Well, it seems like Dragon Ball Super is going back to that nostalgic Dragon Ball feel as we see a reunification of Goku, Master Roshi, Tien, and Chaozu in this episode today. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about in episode 89 of Dragon Ball Super, so let's get started. So, from a plot point of view, we figure out that Tien is actually a dojo master, and he actually has his own group of students that he trains. And to me, this was really interesting because it shows a transition in a character while also being realistic to who should be training them. Because as a human, and I'm going by what the anime shows, I'm not going by offhanded material which talks about Tien being an extraterrestrial. As a human, Tien would be a person who could really help out all of these, people who are aspiring to be martial artists, considering the fact that, as a human, he can relate to what they can do a lot more as compared to other characters in the Dragon Ball series who might be born with, abnormal power abilities such as Piccolo or Goku, who was born with, the abnormal powers of Sand. So I felt that that was a very interesting thing. In addition to this, I like the fact that all of the students are bald like him, so it kind of shows a form of uniformity. Just like how when you go to the military and you see like all of the males in the military have, pretty much cut haircuts, and the women all wear buns so that they all kind of look the same. So that was really interesting. And in essence, I found that it was weird for Tien, of all people, to open up a dojo, in the sense that he's a very introverted character from what we've seen in the Dragon Ball series. But because of his martial arts skills, I felt that this could be accepted. Now, for some other interesting things that this episode showed us, we see that Master Roshi with this girl, Yurin, is once again being a pervert all over again. Yurin wants to be trained in the dojo, and Master Roshi, out of everybody, volunteers to train Yurin. And I immediately knew where this was going to be going in this episode, because if you know Master Roshi, he only has one reason why he would want to take a young, attractive girl and want to train her. And I just thought that that was hilarious. And you also see like Tien is kind of like looking like, oh boy, what is this going to get into now? So that was really interesting and very in character for Master Roshi. And we see some scenes where, Master Roshi's chasing her around the dojo. He's like poking at her butt. He's coming straight up to her face. He made her wear like a tight skirt as they're training, which is kind of similar to, Oolong making Bulma wear that Playboy bunny costume all the way back in like the Emperor Pilaf saga of Dragon Ball. And the reason why I thought that was kind of cool is because although Oolong claims that, that's the only type of women's clothing he has, it was just funny to see how he's kind of forcing her to wear that as compared to what she was wearing before. So those were some really comedic elements that I liked for the earlier part of the episode, and it did a good job of transitioning from the silly humor at first to like the more serious elements later on in the episode. And we get a scene where we see Cabba, going back from the previous episode, as he's confronting Khalifa, and he's talking to her about how I can teach you how to turn into a Super Saiyan. And at this point in time, we see on the side that the real female Broly, who resembles the female Broly from the preview that was leaked months ago, that is the real female Broly, and Khalifa isn't. And to me, I was actually shocked, because in terms of appearance, I thought Khalifa was female Broly, considering the fact that her hairstyle, in her base form at least, seems very similar to the hairstyle that Broly had when he was, on, that fake planet that, Paragus and everybody else created. So, to me, I felt that she looked more realistic to be a female Broly, and also with her clothing and such, she looked more like a fighter, whereas the other one just kind of looked more reserved and kind of delicate to be an actual badass killing machine. So that was something that caught me off guard, and I'm sure the community is talking all about this right now, and I want to ask you guys some questions about that later. But we definitely found out that Khalifa is not the female Broly, and the other female Broly is the one that resembles the previous. So that was something interesting. And also when Cabba was talking about teaching her how to turn Super Saiyan, to me this was kind of interesting, because with such a limited amount of time left, how the hell can you really just teach somebody how to go Super Saiyan? Unless, they just have the ability in them, and if you just have the motivation, it works. Because Cabba learned how to go Super Saiyan after fighting Vegeta for a few minutes. But you would think that because Cabba was already kind of well trained and had all this potential, it would have been easier for him, kind of similar to Goten and Trunks in Dragon Ball Z, where they already had the abilities to turn Super Saiyan so young. They just kind of needed to be pushed in some way or another, like when Goten went Super Saiyan against Chi-Chi in that flashback when she was, training against him. It's kind of similar to that. So, the Super Saiyan rule has been definitely morphed for all of the Dragon Ball characters over the years. And when we go back to the dojo, we see some more interesting things here that I felt were good. We figure out that the reason why Yurin is angry and the reason why she is at this tournament is because she wants to possess all of Tien's students into like these flying zombies that are going around causing trouble in this city. And the reason why is because of the fact that when she was a kid, when Tien and Chaozu were leaving the Crane School, she wanted to fight them, and she calls him the three-eyed baldy. So in essence, she kind of felt that Tien abandoned her as a child, and she's trying to get revenge. Then I had my opinions about that I'll talk more about later, but those are pretty much her motivations. And in terms of Master Roshi, he felt that he needed to fight against Yurin, because he felt that Tien wasn't as well experienced with women, which I thought was kind of funny, because it's like, Master Roshi, you definitely have the most experience with women out of everybody here. And to me, it was really cool to see that Yurin is a character who's completely dependent on her witchcraft and her magic. She has no real massive, ability when it comes to actual fighting skills itself. And I felt that that was good, because if you just try to make Yurin seem like this fighting badass, it would kind of feel unrealistic compared to all of these super powerful Dragon Ball characters. So she stands no chance against Roshi, but the real skill is that she puts these talisman scrolls on their head and they become possessed, just like what she was doing with all the students. And using perversion, she manages to kick Master Roshi in the balls. And not only that, after she kicks him in the balls, she literally just like possesses Roshi, and Roshi starts fighting. And I really love this scene, because to me, it seemed realistic back to Dragon Ball when Ranfan was fighting against Nam in the Dragon Ball tournament, and Ranfan, was pretty much like knocked out, and Master Roshi, even as Jackie Chun, he was like looking at Ranfan and like kind of being distracted by what she was wearing. So it's funny to see that a character so well trained and powerful and focused on martial arts like Roshi can easily be just ticked off with the minute he sees something attractive. And he was commenting about how her panties were striped. So I felt that that was a very humorous scene to also add, some tension to the moment. So that was a good execution right there. And, what we get to see in this scene is the flying Master Roshi. So, if you guys have played some of the Budokai games, I think it was Budokai 2. Yes, it was definitely Budokai 2. In Budokai 2, whenever you would go on a loading screen, you would have like Master Roshi like flying on Gamera as like his flying turtle, as the loading screen is popping up. And I kind of like that stuff, but we never really saw Roshi fly. This time with Roshi being possessed, we see him flying around just like other characters. And this is very similar to Xenoverse 2, especially with all of the purple aura, where Hercule, if you guys remember in Xenoverse, actually it was Xenoverse 1, sorry. In Xenoverse, Hercule was possessed when the whole Cell tournament was going on, and he was pretty much able to just like fly in his possessed state, and he was actually pretty tough to take down. And that's literally what this scene completely reminded me of. It completely reminded me of Towa and Mira going around possessing people and pretty much inflicting the evil within their hearts. So that was something really cool. And I would love to see Master Roshi get like a Xenoverse character copy in the future as like a possessed Master Roshi. That would be a fun character. And that way you can make him fly, so you don't have to worry about, trying to add a character that can't fly in the series. So that was definitely something really cool about Master Roshi. So the fight proceeds. We see some cool throwback techniques, such as, Tien using his, his forearm technique, where Master Roshi is using the lightning shock. And if you guys have seen my episodes of 5 Ways to Win the Tournament of Power, I mentioned these techniques, and some people were wondering that, the show writers probably forgot about all these techniques. But no, this episode showed that they're still aware of it, and that's really cool, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future of Dragon Ball Super. If they're aware of these techniques, they can definitely be utilizing these techniques in the Tournament of Power. So those are definitely two really cool things that I felt the episode did well. And after everything, Goku comes to the rescue. He's obviously holding back against Roshi. Tien was losing, which was kind of surprising, But, you know, obviously Master Roshi's been holding back his power. Goku powers up, fires the Kamehameha, knocks Roshi out. They take off the seal. Everything is solved. Now, in terms of the climax of this episode, somebody's going to make a sexual joke, but I said it. In terms of the climax of this episode, it really shows you that Yurin's motives weren't very strong, as Tien says, okay, well, even though you caused all these problems, you want to come train with me? And he's willing to train her. And, you know, originally he didn't want to go to the Tournament of Power because he wanted to stay with his students. But now, after what Goku did and everything else, Tien feels like he's obligated to help Goku. He's going to help a good old friend out. And to me, it's like Yurin was very weak-minded. Like, it shows you that she's not a serious villain. She's kind of a gag character that looks attractive, that doesn't really have powers, but she can make other people evil temporarily. So she wasn't a major threat, but now she can be used as a future ally, and I think that's really cool. And it would be interesting to see her character come back in the Dragon Ball series later on. Perhaps she gets stronger, and that was really good development for Tien to have a female character that he is now training. And interesting to see how, you know, Goku's telling Tien and Roshi that they can get 10 million Zeni if they're a winner, even though it's kind of weird, because it's like, well, Tien, well, like, what is Master, like, for example, like, if you look at Master Roshi, you know, what is he gonna do with money? Just buy magazines? And for Tien, he actually has a good cause to have the money. But in essence, I mean, with Tien, I kind of think that the whole thing with money is kind of wrong, as Goku's lying to them to their faces, saying they're gonna get money, whereas they're gonna go to the tournament, fight, and get nothing out of it except for the pride of saving the universe. So those were the good things. Now, in terms of the bad, I mean, if I were to grade this episode on a normal scale, Yurin was a weak villain, but that was kind of the point, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. And you also kind of have to suspend your disbelief about certain things, such as, you know, Master Roshi being this strong after all of these years. And Super Jaiyan was going on Twitter talking about, you know, people talking about the whole power scaling of Roshi and Tien and how Roshi shouldn't be this strong. But the way Goku was fighting Roshi, I mean, Roshi's clearly been training and holding back his secret power. I don't know how it could be as high as Tien's or on par with Tien's, but, you know, you gotta suspend your disbelief and just enjoy the episode sometimes. And also, for another critique, I feel like Goku's Kamehameha seemed very weak, and also Roshi's Kamehameha seemed to lack, you know, destruction, as well as Roshi's Kamehameha barely cracked the mountain, and Goku's Kamehameha was massive, but yet it only made like a small crater in the ground. Like, the way that Kamehameha looked, it looked like it literally nuked the whole village. Like, it seems like it's kind of hard for me to believe that that Kamehameha did not literally wipe out everything around it. It seemed way more destructive than what it ended up being. So that's definitely one criticism I have of the episode. And last but not least, I mean, although Yurin, as I said before, was created to, you know, have a lack of, you know, to have weak motives into trying to draw Tien and Chaozu into the tournament, to me, it just seemed like if she really wanted to make Tien's dojo look bad, then why would she try to sneak and do all of this stuff in broad daylight? Like, why don't you try to do this when people are off guard instead of, you know, just kind of, you know, showing up and, you know, getting straight into the whole nitty-gritty. And in addition to this, Chaozu seemed kind of super weak, being scared of Tien's soldiers, whereas for Chaozu, he should be well above all of these, you know, students, considering how strong he was in Dragon Ball. So those were some of my criticisms, but they were really minor. It wasn't anything really to complain. It was just nitpicks here and there. But ultimately, though, guys, for some of my discussion points where I want you guys to respond to me in the comment section, where I ask you guys some questions, why the hell do you think Tien needs money? Because, I mean, in essence, unless Tien wants to train for his own will, which I respect, Tien kind of lives off in isolation and kind of does his own thing. So why the hell would he need money? I mean, other than to fix, you know, the damaged homes, which I can understand money for, I don't see why Tien or Roshi would need money. And really, in your opinion, let me know in the comment section below with excess money, because I'm sure it doesn't cost 10 million Zeni to, you know, fix all those houses. Let me know what you think Tien could really do with his dojo, except for maybe expand it. But other than that, you could always ask Bulma for money. So I don't know. To me, guys, money really just doesn't make sense to Dragon Ball characters when you have Bulma and Mr. Satan in the mix. And also, let me know what you think about Khalifa and the female you know, the other female Broly that we saw in this episode, because ultimately, I mean, looking at them in this episode, people now have confirmation that they're clearly not the same person, and I want you to think, you know, and tell me about what you feel with the whole Super Saiyan shenanigan about learning how to turn Super Saiyan in the span of a day, because that's kind of ridiculous. But overall, guys, I thought this was a fun, solid episode. I'll give it 4 stars. The criticisms I had were very minor in terms of storytelling if you're trying to grade this on a complete scale, even if it's a filler episode. It was a small, self-containing plot, and I feel like it did a good job of representing the characters and their motives over the years, and it was also giving me a good throwback Dragon Ball feel. So it felt very in character for Master Roshi and all of that, and it had some good humor. So let me know what you guys think about this episode overall. And for my preview analysis, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Gohan is going to be fighting against, you know, Tien and Goku with Piccolo, and that's pretty much it. He's gonna test his power, and this preview looked relatively short. There really wasn't much except for small little fight scenes, and Goku was being shown as a Super Saiyan 2, so he's obviously going to be testing Gohan gradually throughout the fight. But ultimately, that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you think about this review and predictions, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.